Please note that this video contains spoilers for the subject and the series and/or franchise leading up to this entry. Put off by how long this video is? Don't worry, I try to jam-pack my videos with as much content and as much detail as I possibly can. Anything I feel I can comment on and that I feel you might be interested in, I pretty much put in the video. I try not to repeat myself and talk fairly fast. I either have or will cover other parts of this franchise, and this video either is or will be linked below. I'm not going to restate here what I did or will say in the other video. These videos get long enough as it is. Deadpool 2 thoughts. And yes, continuing to only do thoughts videos until my wrists are better. And I will jump with great force directly into notes taken while watching. Just briefly, I will... Yeah, first off, I probably will swear in this video, even though I often do not. In case you're watching this and you haven't yet watched the movie and you just want a brief review, I haven't really written anything down here other than that I wanted to briefly review. I think if you like the first one, you're almost definitely going to like this one as well. It's better in several ways, including action scenes, and I think it does a better job of letting other characters also get to make good like riffs and such. In the first one, I mean, Deadpool obviously, Weasel gets some. I mean, other than that, where in this, pretty much every major character has at least some, riffing kind of stuff. I'm not sure Dopinder has, but I think he's the only one. Basically, everybody else makes jokes, and it is one of those movies that tries to do everything the first did because it worked the first time around, and always beware of comedy sequels. I think that it's, I just watched Filmbrain's, what's it called? His review, his projector episode on the movie, and he points out that the early portions of the film are kind of, there's too much going on, and that Domino is great. Domino is one of my favorite parts of this movie, and we have got to see more Domino. I don't, whether it's more Deadpool, whether it's X-Force, whether it's solo movie, I demand more Domino. It's, yeah. Now, I suppose that pretty much covers that. I think yeah, to just briefly spoil the first one. Ultimately, the first one, it is fairly straightforward, kind of romance, revenge kind of story, and it's fine, and I think it's that thing where the moment that you make it a mainstream movie, you have to remove some of the edgier, or unless you're willing for it to completely bomb and flop. But I mean, Ang Lee made the Hulk movie that he wanted to make. Clearly, it just didn't do very well. But yeah, you have to change some things from where when you read the comics and the couple of games that I've played that he appears in, Deadpool is a much less, I mean, he's not unlike someone like, what's her name? The Harley Quinn, but where with Harley Quinn we kind of accept, she's out there in the Suicide Squad movie, but she's a bad guy, and there's no real expectation that she'll, ultimately Deadpool, there's a lot about him that we can't really relate to. We can just find him entertaining. I mean, at the end of the day, he's an assassin. He can never die. He has, he's aware that he is in fiction. If he's in the in the comics, he comments on being in a comic book. In the game, he comments on being in a video game, and in the movies, he comments on being in movies. And a lot of this stuff just does not. You can't put it in a mainstream, and that's one place where I find that games they can do things that movies can't. I doubt we'll ever see a movie that is from the perspective of a xenomorph. Meanwhile, video game wise, they made 3 Alien versus Predator games, and in all 3 of them you can play as an alien or a predator, and the game never tells you, okay, now you have to go protect the humans and such, which I haven't watched the Transformers movies, but as far as I understand, there's way too much focus on the human characters. It's not what we're there to see, but they're worried that if they actually dive fully into this really cool concept, and I'm not saying that they're good movies, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is kind of a cool concept to have transforming cars. It's not the concept's fault that Michael Bay is terrible at what he does. What I'm getting to is, the first one is basically just, it's the origin story, so, but yeah, ultimately it's a romance revenge flick kind of thing. Not saying that those two necessarily frequently go together. Usually it focuses more on one or the other. This time around, there's some others, yeah, I'm at this point, from here on out, I am spoiling this movie. I think it was interesting to have him have to save someone else, and for that someone else to be someone not a romantic interest. Only in /fic is Wade going to actually romantically be with Fistfire? FF. Only there is he going to be with FF. So there's something special to romantic love and fighting to protect your romantic partner, but at the end of the day, it just there's a huge difference between that and then someone that you deem worth saving, but that you're never going to have that kind of a relationship with. And yeah, in this one, it actually does say, and obviously, oh, but it's only one person. Yes, but once you've taken one step in that direction, there's more of a chance of you really starting to run down that direction. And yeah, from here on out, Deadpool might save countless people who cannot defend themselves. And yeah, he, hero kind of thing. And that's, yeah, I think that's, and also moving towards, yeah, and in this he does work with a team, where in the first one he just had a little bit of backup, and yeah, ultimately, we want him in X-Force. That's part of, it's great to have a Deadpool solo movie, more than one, but ultimately, you give us Deadpool, we're gonna want X-Force too. In today's age, that was a lot of sorry, with all this continuity, especially with these comic book adaptations, obviously we want X-Force. And, bringing in Cable as soon as they could was also incredibly obvious. And yeah, you have banter between Deadpool and Cable. You have Deadpool as part, not necessarily the leader of, but part of the X-Force. Yeah, I think they did a good job of putting in these elements without... the movie is not an X-Force movie. It is a Deadpool movie. Now, to get to my prepared remarks, let's see. Yeah, just briefly, so this has, Hugh Jackman, but it's not new footage at all. It's just, he said he wouldn't play the role again under any circumstances. Originally he said he would do it in a MCU movie, but yeah, it's stock footage, so that's. I like how the opening has the toy statue of the ending of Logan, like impaled on the branch, and Film Brain points out, oh, have another joke with like a toy figure and that kind of thing. Absolutely, it is a repeat, but I think it is infinitely funnier of a joke. Ultimately, the first one, it was just saying, yes, look at how stupid and crappy Barakapool was. And it was terrible. But it just leads to, this, oh, wham, and, it's a nice character moment, and it's a decent enough joke. But it's not that funny. This is freaking hilarious, and it's such a great way to start the movie that literally, because this is something, I mean, at this point, it's been some months. Has it been more than half a year? I forget, whatever. You know, it's been some months since Logan, and everybody, it really got to us, that ending. Even though we had some idea, come on. And eventually he's going to die in one of these movies, and then, still, really got to us. And to open this movie with reminding us of that ending, and then turning it into a complete joke, spot on, absolutely perfect. Pedal on the branch, and then Deadpool presses a button and starts spinning and playing music. What's that called? Music box, like like a little ballerina figure for the girls. Perfect, absolutely perfect. I absolutely love it. And again, I'm not like someone who said, it shouldn't have killed Luke. No, they did perfect in that movie, and this is a perfect, reference joke thing. Now, I think they removed the gluten joke that's in the trailer. I will still make this joke. Don't fuck with gluten. It will make your dick fly off. And, Deadpool literally blows himself up in an apartment using a cigarette, numerous barrels of gasoline, and says, fuck Deadpool. He went and outdid us by actually dying in the movie, and now we have to compete with that. But you know what, Wolverine? I'm gonna die in this movie, so there. And, when you first hear that, you're like, but how though? Because you have powers that, But there's also, how did Wolverine die? Well, it's the, adamantium blood poisoning. But anyway, yeah, so in this, they do that with the collar that, around his neck. And by the end of the movie, that has been undone. But yes, technically he dies in the movie, And also, it says all great family movies open with a murder, and then, it's Vanessa, which also gets undone by the end of the movie. And we were told Deadpool has been chasing international criminals. I don't know if the movie does that thing that I've many times said that I can't stand, where in the movie it's clips from a montage of action. And in the trailer, you can't tell that it's from a montage, so you think that it's going to be an entire scene. I don't think it hurt this movie that much, and it's also, there's the montage. There's enough of action. It's not the Captain America thing where it's just completely, we just see stuff happening. In this, several of the bits of the montage, there's just enough detail and context that we can appreciate the action scene, And even if that wasn't enough, the scene where Vanessa is shot, we have all the, Deadpool uses all the knives to get the guys, and, so it's a way to get action early in the movie, and it is also just, I don't think enough of these movies do that, where you can tell what happened between the last time you saw these characters and now. I think more movies need to do that, and sometimes also in the MCU, it's like, wait, but has the Age of Ultron starts with, okay, so the Avengers have been working together for months now, but meanwhile you have the Captain America. It seems like he's just been working with Shield for a while now, and the whole that I absolutely love the I think it's probably racist, but it's really funny where Deadpool calls the like Yakuza guy or something. Oh, that was probably racist. The international criminal of Asian heritage. And like I think the Asian guy says something to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I have no idea what you just said to me. Now listen up." And then he gets out the card, and it's a symbol, and it's like, I don't even actually, maybe it's Japanese letters or Chinese letters. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not even gonna try with this. I don't speak foreign languages, but I did take high school Spanish. And then he said, I think, where is the library? Like, ¿dónde está I don't know, libraria? I don't know. El Cancer. And it translates on the subtitles, where is the library? And then he says, and that means, and then he says something completely just, yeah, it's really, really funny. But that was a mistake because your babysitter got high. It's, yeah, really, really funny. And yeah, the line about this is a family film. You could have brought your kids because this is a family film. And like all great family movies, it opens with a murder. Bambi, Lion King, Saw, I think 6, he said. And yeah, some of the movie is trying to redo jokes and other stuff from the first one. I really love the Martha bit, and now Dopinder wants to be, Kirsten Dunst an interview with a vampire, and it keeps. It is really funny, and how awkward it is, because this whole thing with the 10-year-old and the whole and the I took out my IUD and your IED, and then in my language we don't it's not really, you can't translate that directly because we don't call it something that sounds just like bomb. So instead it's subtitled with spiral, which pretty obvious why we call it spiral. And then he said oh, it's my spiral of violence. That was pretty good, way to translate that. And now we see Deadpool and Vanessa wanting children, and they make some Star Wars jokes. Again, they made Star Wars and Empire jokes in the first one. Maybe it's because in this they're harsher and edgy. Just briefly, I rewatched the first one yesterday, and before that, I think it was maybe a month ago or something. So I remember it very distinctly, and I feel like I should be able to compare the two very well. But yeah, again, love those Star Wars jokes in the first one, but this one with the oh, when you have a kid, they're just destined to. I don't even remember. I only remember the funny part. Destined to, bone his sister. I think you might have misunderstood part of the movie. Well, that was really, really funny. And yeah, and you have the attack, and I don't. Are they implying that he has like a spider sense, Deadpool sense? because he could kind of sort of tell that they were. Was it supposed to be that he heard them on the steps? Or, anyway, and he uses the knife holder and ends up emptying it, and then he has the butter. He says, "Oh, good thing I didn't have to use this." And then the guy comes in, shoots her, and Deadpool throws it, but it doesn't. It's not sharp and doesn't. And then there at the end, I hope you sharpen the butter knife, and he throws it, and yeah. Again, I'm not necessarily crazy about how the undoing thing, though it is very Deadpool to have it just suddenly he's doing this crazy stuff that actually undermines some of them. But I will say first you just have the good thing I didn't have to use this. How am I going to kill someone with the butter knife? And then the guy does show up and he throws it, and of course ineffective. And then there at the end, I hope you sharpen the butter knife, and he throws it. Just great way to just turn that around. And Vanessa dies. I don't know. Is it 10 minutes into the movie? She really got shafted in both movies. I'm just saying it would not have killed. Literally, it would not have killed DP to dive in and take the bullet, but. Yeah, I mean, do they really, if they make a third one, if she appears in another movie, even if it's not a solo movie, I really hope they find something for her to do, instead of just someone that Deadpool has to rescue. And, I mean, in the first one, you have the relationship, which is great. They're really great together. They have chemistry, and you get how too often in these movies, it's like the guy gets a girl that's really awesome, and he doesn't have to do anything for her. But, excuse me, this is bothering me. There we go. Hopefully it won't fall. So I appreciate that, but yeah, in both of these movies, they don't know. The abridged script of the first one points out that she doesn't actually really affect the plot, particularly, it doesn't drive the plot, something like that. But yeah, do they really have no idea what to do with her? Again, at that point, if you just yeah, if I'm playing like Alien vs Predator and suddenly there's like a love interest, I'm gonna be like, what? Why is she here? And I wouldn't be surprised if they have no idea what to do with her. But given that that's the case, that probably is why they did decide to remove her. And yeah, maybe Vanessa shouldn't have been in these movies. You lose like heart and drama and like stuff like that. But that's about it. There's not that much she does to affect the plot in either. Now, I like the truck hug attack, and how the opening credits react to how Vanessa was just shot. Like, did they just kill her? Wait a minute. Are you telling me she's dead? How can you just move on? And you have the Deadpool on a chair and the bullet, spent shells right on. That's reenacting, I think, one of the 50 Shades things. I forget what it is there, but yeah, really great. I think they do a really good job with that in both movies, and the marketing for both movies, having Deadpool in place of like iconic characters or such, and just wearing the Deadpool getup. It's just that's funny without having to do all that. Weasel is really funny again. I didn't note it in the, so I'll just briefly get into it here. I really loved his entire, and then again, million times funnier, him getting caught by Cable, and then him talking about. I mean, it's right. It's basically exactly the thing with how in the first one, it's Angel Dust and Ajax threatening Weasel in the bar, which every time I watch the movie I'm like, why don't these guys shoot Ajax and Angel Dust? Why don't they follow them? It's so annoying when you have this kind of setup and none of them, and all you had to do was have it be like, if they caught up with Weasel right outside, and then he like tries to shout for them to come out and help him, and then when they let him go, he runs in and says, "You gotta come out. There's these bad guys out here." And then they go out, and Ajax and excuse me, angel dust are already gone. That's all you had to do. But yeah, in this one, it's much funnier. You know, in the first one, it's just, well, Weasel gets in a couple of jokes about how, you know, how they what they look like, how they're dressing, which, and they're funny again. But in this, you know, he's sitting there like, you know, you know, how, what's the worst pain you've ever felt? These you've actually tied me really tightly, and it's just, you know, and he's talking about how he gets like, he gets a boner when he's nervous. He actually kind of has one right now, so please don't look at it because this is going to make it worse. And like, you know, I will tell you nothing except what you want to know. No, wait, sorry, that's what he said. You know, I told him nothing except what he wanted to know. You know, and then he's also, let's go get him except for me, without me, I think he says. Which is really, I mean, it would be, you know, if he was so empty without him. But anyway, and yeah, he's like, you know, I will tell you everything except for where they're going. They're going there, you know, and yeah, and he's also the one who says, but you better watch out because there's been a storm warning. And at the first, it's like, what is that even? How is that going to affect Cable? But then it affects the X-Force. And also, I didn't note, I really like how the movie makes you think that we're going to see the entire X-Force, you know, attack the truck, and then all of them end up dead. Like, literally, everyone, you know, Deadpool and Domino are the only ones who survive. And Deadpool survives almost anything, and Domino is lucky. So, yeah. And I love how we only for a fraction of a second see, maybe more than a fraction, we only very briefly see, I forget his name right now, but the Vanisher, I think he's called, you know, we only very briefly actually see him, and it's like Brad Pitt or something, which is just, yeah, complete blink and you'll miss him. But yeah, I really love when they do that sort of thing, when they, you know, just find, you know, get an actor who is way too big a deal for that kind. You know, you also have the blink and you'll miss it cameos from the X-Men. I'll get to that one when, you know, chronologically. Now, at least we still have Bowie, and he's like, don't tell him, you know. And Deadpool lies on the floor in front of Al, sad over Vanessa. Pain teaches us who we are. I don't think Cable said the thing from the trailer in the movie about how much pain have you been through, but, you know, it's okay. It didn't bother me that much. And, you know, DP blows himself up, and we get this surreal, you know, like vision, and DP can't quite get to Vanessa. Some of this I might just say DP instead of Deadpool. Once again, every last one of these notes is voice typed, and sometimes the voice typing just does not understand. It's impressive, you know, is Google Docs voice typing via Google Drive, you know. There are a lot of words that it has no problem with, but sometimes it, you know, for it most of the time when I said Yukio, it wrote Yu-Gi-Oh instead, and I just left that because I know what it's supposed to mean. But yeah, Deadpool, I just said DP. Now, and yeah, he literally did blow himself to pieces. And this Yukio is the girlfriend of Negasonic. I have to admit, I expected some lewd and, you know, line crossing kind of jokes about lesbianism, considering it. You know, it was, I'm not sure I'm disappointed because it's very likely, excuse me, that they would go way too far, but that is the thing. This movie several times does get really offensive. Film Brain points out some of the time it's when it shouldn't, or about a subject that it shouldn't. Other times I found them very funny. The whole running gag of like Black Tom Cassidy, White Wade Wilson, and like, you know, you killed Black Tom. How can you know, that's so racist. And, you know, there's that other, I forget. There's some other line that Deadpool also turns into like racism, and then as he's lying there dying, he's like, "Cable, I hope one day you will judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin." And Cable's like, "This fucking guy." That's really, really funny. And again, I mean, it's not. I take racism extremely seriously. It's one of the most important aspects, you know. But yeah, it's just that's funny. Now, and Filmbrain points out that Negasonic, she might as well not have been in this movie. It's really a shame. And I also do find that I think they could have given Yukio more to do it. You know, literally the one joke, the one thing she gets to do that's kind of a catchphrase or a joke or something is that she's always like, "Hi Wade." That's it. I really feel like they should have done at least a little bit more with that, or just, yeah, just giving her a little. It's especially because I think she says like highway and waving like 3 times in the movie, and it's the same every time. You know, you just have to, you know, some of the time. Yeah, I think one of them is as he's lying there dying, and she's, you know, that's funny. But the other times it's just kind of there, and it just, yeah, the like, I guess if, like, yeah, like maybe if, you know, Negasonic is clearly annoyed by her going like that, so maybe one of the times when the two of them are next to each other and he's like, "Hi Yukio," you know, maybe she should be like, she should like raise her hand, start smiling, you know, looking at him, and then she looks to the side, and Negasonic is like, "Don't do it. Seriously, you just don't give him the satisfaction," something, you know. And she like lowers her hand again and stops smiling, and then Negasonic's like, you know, "Good, thank you, honey." And then she turns away, and then Yukio just sneaks in her really quick, and then turns around, follows her, something, you know. But just it needed more than that. And then Colossus is like, "The X-Men do not kill." I'm not sure I'm going to go through the whole film continuity here, but just off the top, keeping in mind that for these I'll always rewatch the original. You know, I've got the first 3 on DVD, so yeah. Okay, first movie. Wolverine doesn't actually kill Mystique, but he tries to. Then you've got Toad and Sabretooth. Second movie, you have what's her name? I'm not counting the guards that Magneto kills by pulling the pins on all their grenades, because he's not an X-Man. But Wolverine kills Lady Deathstrike. Third movie, I guess, do they kill? That might be one where they don't kill anyone, because, I mean, certainly Bobby doesn't intentionally kill Pyro. He only knocks him out. I think that covered. No, wait, yeah, Storm definitely killed the speed, you know, the rift tracks has the, you know, meep meep. Yeah, that's, yeah. But, you know, fries her, and the audience is supposed to like laugh and cheer because she was a bad guy. And it's funny that she just got electrified. I mean, essentially Storm put her in the electric chair, and I mean, okay, she was a bad guy. I really think that's way too far to go. I don't think we see her kill anyone. But the idea that we're supposed to laugh and cheer, that's fucked up. But I suppose that covers it for that one. Yeah, okay, that's the first 3. X-Men Wolverine. Wolverine kills a lot of people. Most of it's off-screen. I don't get why people are like, you know, "Oh, they keep talking about how he's, you know, an animal, but we don't see it." You really needed to see it past what we see in the opening montage, where he fights in every single war that he could. You really thought that in all the, you know, in all this he's waving his claws around, and you're telling me that in all that He didn't kill a single person. Sorry, that's almost definitely not the exact word for word quote. It's been way too long since I watched Joan of Arc. The yeah, he kills the, let's see. Certainly he kills, well, no, he doesn't kill that Deadpool, I suppose. Anyway, for sure he kills humans just, off screen a lot. I suppose you could say, well, he wasn't an X-Man at the time. Let's see, that brings us to First Class. Let's see. I guess, I suppose it's possible the good guys don't kill anyone in that one. Okay, that brings us to Days of Future Past, where I suppose it's possible they also don't kill anyone in that one. Let's see, which brings us to Apocalypse, where certainly several of them get, certainly Jean finishes off Apocalypse. She's not the only one to kill him, but I think, she gets, like, the finishing blow. But, yeah, certainly the others are trying to kill him. And Nightcrawler kills Archangel. And, yeah, so they most definitely kill people. I don't know if that was, like, an intentional, like, if so, I feel like Deadpool should have called him on it and, like, just held up a brief list of all the people they've killed, and Colossus pick it up and rip it to shreds before he starts listing them or something, reading them out. I love the brief Apocalypse era X-Men cameos, especially considering that they're the same age that they are in that movie, which is set in the 80s, where this movie is clearly set in the 2010s, based on tech and so, let's see, the Weasel mentions LinkedIn. Did LinkedIn? How long has that existed? Anyway, yeah, certainly there's stuff in this that's very, very recent technology. It's definitely not set in the 1980s. And just, yeah, although I suppose it is possible that the filmmakers themselves forgot that that movie was set in the 1980s, since that movie itself did not do much to establish that it's set in the 1980s. Colossus, like, choke-holding DP seems very out of character. I feel like it's fine for him to, like, restrain him, but choke him like that, I feel like if he wanted to make sure that Deadpool stayed put, like, he could have, in the first one when he puts the, yeah, that's what it is, it's like the next level of, instead of just putting handcuffs on him, he chokeholds him, and it goes against the characterization that Colossus has for the rest of all of his screen time in these two movies, just have him, like, handcuff him to a chair, or, yeah, something. And Cable is introduced in a very Days of Future Past looking future, and the bear is not his own, but his daughter's. And I do appreciate, I mean, I have to admit, I forget, but I don't think in the comics that Cable he wasn't the main Days of Future Past dude, at least. That was Forge, wasn't it, who also has the M over his eye that we also do see in Days of Future Past. I think in the comics, he was the one who was sent back, and he has to try to find the person who killed, and the let's see. I think in the comics, it's also, Mystique, but I think she used the appearance of an X-Man or something to throw off the remember. And DP uses fake Cerebro, and he's, like, finishing Colossus' sentence, and it's like, well, yeah, because Colossus is that predictable. It's not that DP can actually read his mind. I think that's a scene that could have ended up going on too long. I think some people might find that it does go on for too long. I think it went just right up against the edge, but I don't think it went on for too long. Some of the other scenes did. And the Pyro-like character is introduced in a standoff with police, which is one of the most memorable things he does in the second X-Men movie. Just Fist, that's a really, yeah. when they named that character, I don't think fist was as sexual of a term as it is today, but him calling himself something fist is really sexual. Him literally calling, I think it's Fire Fist, not Fist Fire, but Fire Fist, that is just, yeah, that sounds like a subgenre of porn. It does not sound like a superhero. And that really is, I appreciate that they didn't like change the name. I briefly looked it up. As far as I recall, he is called Fire Fist in yeah, that's, yeah. I mean, with the Shocker, that already meant that when the comic character was named that, wasn't it? Or I forget. Is, considering that he, Fire Fist or whatever, it's not a surprise that the kid later uses a pen for a weapon and a tool, considering, yeah. That line's from RoboCop. And rules are meant to be broken, and DP kind of relates to Fire Fist, and yeah, doesn't just try to talk, he's like, I understand what you're going through in this kind of, and DP throws the sword, but he does it in such a way that and that's, again, that's a cool, when we see him throw a sword, we've seen that a couple of times in these movies, mostly it's to impale someone on a sword, or for it to hit something as an attack, and here it just, turns, swings, whatever, in midair, and it's hit in the forehead by the, the handle, sword handle. And we find out that Farfus was abused by the staff, and DP shoots one of them, making Colossus angry. I disagree, Colossus. It seems to me that you are Judge Judy and Executioner. And DP goes directly to jail, though he did already pass the X-Mansion. He does not collect 200 comics issues. I really appreciate that it's even called the Essex Institute. So yeah, considering that this is in continuity with Logan, it's set before Logan takes place. Yeah, it makes sense that Nathaniel Essex had started this mutant school, which is in actuality, this. It tortures them and really abuses them, because that's who Mr. Sinister is. He's not a nice guy. And yeah, and we also see this jail for really dangerous mutants. It's been too long since I read the comics, but I think the idea of a school where they're abused and an actual prison for, really high-powered mutants, I believe those are in the comics. And it's the kind of thing where it makes sense for it to be there in the movie universe, but we haven't seen it before. And to be fair, it's also that if we had seen it before, what would they do with them plot-wise? In this, they do stuff with them plot-wise, So, yeah, leave it to the R-rated, entry in the film franchise to, yeah, it's still recording. Yeah, to show this kind of stuff, because it is like, okay, it's all well and good that the X-Men take in the kids that they can help keep from turning to the dark side and joining the Brotherhood, and they fight the Brotherhood when the Brotherhood make a real serious move, and other groups of mutants as well. But that can't possibly be enough. They don't kill all of these mutants, so what happens? And yeah, here you see, yeah, there is a prison specifically for yeah, we briefly, see this, there's the mobile prison in X-Men 3, but that immediately spectacularly fails. So it's difficult to take that seriously. Yes, that's because Magneto goes there, but it is like, yeah. And obviously, if Magneto had attacked the prison in this one, I'm not sure there would have been much they could do. So yeah, it's one of those. I'm not sure there is a perfect victory way to get it, but certainly in the time this is set, there hasn't really been, let's see, last time, if this is set when it came out, so 2018, and X-Men: The Last Stand was set around, was that 2006, or was it months after the events of the second one, which also wasn't long after the first one? I think something like that. So yeah, it's been a number of years since we last saw Magneto do anything evil with his powers, so it makes sense that they were like, well, last we heard, he was depowered, so we don't have to worry about, yeah. And we have a discussion about what to use to wipe your butt, and apparently, according to Wikipedia, one of those was in Matt Damon. One of them was like a famous actor, so that's, yeah, I greatly appreciate that, and I do. And this is again one of those things where it could easily have gone on for way too long, but yeah, it doesn't, and it's not too explicit, at least I would say, but again, your mileage may vary. Other people might think that it's just way too much, but it is, yeah. And I also appreciate, it's one of the only funny things in the scene, other than that, is pretty much just, yeah, he arrives, what year is it? Wearing the Terminator inspiration on his sleeve. For those who don't know, Cable in the comics is indeed inspired by the Terminator movies, so yeah, and they just straight up, he immediately arrives and, asks what year it is, and then drives away in a vehicle that is not his after, using violence to subdue some guys who, yeah. And if I picked up a bow and arrow, I'd basically be Hawkeye. And FF says there are no fat heroes. Is there? I guess aren't there at least a few though? I know that a number of them are like villains, which is again, you have this, great. Oh, it's you shouldn't hate someone because they're different. Ah, look at the fat people; they're definitely villains. Anyway, yeah, the I don't know. Again, I feel like if it's not the case, I just feel like someone should have called him on that, but I don't know. But it is a funny point still, though, that, and there's definitely, a lack of diversity, although at this point, there's a pretty good amount of diversity in the comics, but the movies could still have at least a little more. And FF and DP are beaten by other prisoners. I really appreciate how both of these movies, they don't have a problem being really dark and having messed up stuff happen to DP. And Cable breaks into the prison to attack the kid, and, DP points out, Winter Soldier arm. Cable in the prison feels like a combination of the Terminator in the police station and Cyberdyne. Really, almost all the major, I guess not the nightclub, but other than that, pretty much all the, and not the, the openings of both movies where he gets the clothes. Other than that, the action scenes from the first from the two Terminator movies that aren't crap. Now, and the three questions for the time traveler: dubstep, Sharknado, and robot arms. And it's just great subversion, because it seems like DP is winning, but then suddenly it turns around. And I am almost surprised that he didn't bring up the futuristic gun, which is also something Winter Soldier uses, but he does repeatedly say he loves that gun, so it's not like he or the movie ignored the, yeah, really cool gun. I really appreciate how, first we see him use it on like a low setting, and then he turns it up a little more, and then Deadpool gets it and turns it up even higher and uses it to knock back Cable. And sure, he doesn't get that hurt because he's got the shield, but it knocks him back a bunch. And then near the end, he takes it at a really low setting. Yeah. Great action, great fights. And then I love dubstep, and then it plays dubstep and rock bottom, and DP goes back to the spirit department. I wonder if his is close to Killmonger's spirit department. No, I'm asking, what does that word mean? What's your superpower? You know, they ask Dopinder. You're outmanned, outgunned, out-equipped. What else you got? Guile. And, you know, vanish. He's invisible. I guess he's running late. And they set up a code of knocking. Them arguing over whether or not luck is a superpower goes on for at least a little bit too long. You know, not often, not a lot of that in the movie, but yeah, definitely does go on for at least a little too long. Especially considering that there's literally no change. It's just him saying no, her saying yes. And the trailer makes it seem like that won't take a very long time. Maybe I missed it, but how did Cable find Weasel on the bar? I mean, he didn't even know that. You know, what about the prison scene would tell him that Weasel had anything to do with Deadpool? I cried when they canceled Felicity. I didn't really have a good idea for, you know, what the different team members' powers were. You know, I figured that would happen when we saw them in action, but then we don't see them in action. Very cool music when the team jumps out of the plane helicopter. I forget. You know, in general, the music is great in these. As they're in the air, it looks a lot like screenshots I've seen of Player Unknown Battlegrounds, Fortnite, and such. You know, I might be able to make a reference if I played those games. Even though it's been so long, a too soon joke. And the strong wind. Who knew that there was a strong wind? Everyone else on the helicopter, everyone off the helicopter too. And Stan Lee got a cameo on graffiti, and apparently also as a bust in the X-Mansion. The luck power working in both the truck scene and the orphanage are really awesome. It kind of reminds me somewhat of Quicksilver's X-Men, the X-Men Quicksilver's scenes, but better in part because it doesn't mean that nothing else can happen in the same scene. You know, I really like when she interacted directly with Cable, for example, and there was this thing of his skill and her luck kind of, you know, what is that thing? Unstoppable force hits an immovable object kind of thing, you know, where, yes, she's incredibly lucky, but he's incredibly capable. So at some point, you know, she never stops being lucky, but her luck doesn't keep extending to other characters, you know. So and that was kind of, and again, that's why it's important that it's not just, oh, we need all these guys to survive. No, it's that they need to save this person, otherwise it doesn't matter, you know. And, you know, DP calls Cable John Connor. No breaks. The kid wanting a father figure and looking up to several killers kind of reminds me of Problem Child, the first one. Juggernaut looks, sounds, and behaves exactly as he should. You know, the way it is in the comics. Same as how this Colossus is actually this former Soviet Union guy who's constantly like a bigger brother to others and Boy Scout and such. He had no personality in the main X-Men continuity similar to other major X-Men, and that really sucked because it wouldn't have been difficult. Just have him use an accent. Those movies are so scared of people seeing that sometimes these characters aren't exactly the same as each other. And so, like, the one thing that he does that there's a little bit of personality to is he draws that picture, that cartoon of, like, Rogue and Bobby kissing and it, like, messing Bobby up. You know, that's literally, other than that, he's just, yeah. You know, and he's like, oh, I can help you fight these soldiers. No, you should help the children. He really couldn't have figured that out himself. Since when does Wolverine need help for that kind of thing? Meanwhile, you've got freaking children. We're not just talking teenagers. They're like 10-year-olds running around here. They need help, you know, but yeah. you know, that bit only exists so that we can have another Wolverine does something heroic moment, you know, and selfless. Just yeah, and yeah, in these two movies, this is the way Colossus is in the comics, you know. So it's absolutely perfect. I'm really glad that they are not afraid of letting them have personality. And Juggernaut rips DP in half. I forget if it's Juggernaut, and I'm not 100% certain if it's DP or if it's maybe Wolverine. One of these, you know, one of the characters who heals everything was like ripped in half, and you know, regrew from that. And the, you know, don't say legs, don't say legs, legs. It still hurts. And this also has the, you know, joke, excuse me, but this time it's about the lower half that has regrown partially instead of DP's face, and it's more characters, and it's not just like, again, I enjoyed that in the first movie, but this is so much better. You know, ultimately it's just, yeah, you know, okay, yeah, his face looks messed up, but you know, and that is, it's a big part of the first movie. It's something that really drives him, motivates him for the rest of the movie after it happens. But here, just the, especially, and you know, he gets up and you see a little baby butt and his tiny little legs. And it was the basic instinct thing, which that joke was super easy to call though. But yeah, yeah, that whole thing, that was really funny. It was, what the hell, what's wrong with your face? This is the first time I'm seeing you without the mask, and all this. He's behind you, isn't he? Which is a really nice turn on the he's behind me, isn't he? And yeah. And we have another, you know, Kirsten Dunst in Review of the Vampire callback. And you know, you got the utility belt. It's a fanny, you know, there's no different, there's barely any difference between a utility belt and that fanny pack. So don't, you know, I really wish you hadn't said that whilst maintaining eye contact with me and applying lip balm. And we're told about, you know, Cable's family and how the bear was his daughter's. Let's see. And yeah, you know, the movie is in part essentially Days of Future Past. You know, I'm not really sure that that's a huge problem, and I'm not sure how else they were going to introduce Cable in any way that, you know, if they were going to do him justice, they were going to do this kind of thing. And also, yeah, from the trailers, yeah, okay, we got some Days of Future Past going on. You know, just instead of, it's not Mystique, but it's if it's FF, you know, and the guy going back in time is the one trying to kill the person rather than just trying to save them, which is also, you know, again, it's that, you know, the what's it called, Terminator thing, you know, there's always one person sent back to save someone, and the other sent back, one individual. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a robot. The other sent back to kill that one, you know. And I do think it is worth noting, I'm fairly certain Days of Future Past did come out as a comic before the first Terminator movie. So that wasn't a ripoff. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a ripoff, but I forget what the softer word. Sun's getting real low. That was perfect. I really, you know, I laughed my ass off when that was used in Thor Ragnarok, and I laughed my ass off when it happened in this one. And you know, FF attacks the school where he faced abuse. I don't know if the writers, director, and such intended to, but this is really relevant considering all the school shootings. And yeah, I gotta say that I think that's impressive for a movie as out there as this to actually go in there and I mean, you could say that, well, it doesn't really have any definite answers, but then, I mean, it's not as though we don't know how to solve the problem. It's just that the NRA has too much power. The problem is obviously gun control. Now, but yeah, you know, the X-Men are at their very best when they're relevant. Always has been. Why didn't Deadpool bring any guns for the climax this time? It's not as though he didn't go intending to kill people. He just happens to pick up a brick instead of using guns. Did he actually expect Cable to agree to let him use one of those guns? It does. Cable doesn't really seem, at this point at least, doesn't seem like the person who would share this kind of thing. First movie he forgot the bag. Obviously also the first movie it was fighting these mercenary people, but still, he does kill all these orderlies, and I'm not saying that. I mean, these are guys who have no problem torturing children, or failing that, looking the other way as others torture them. So, yeah, Colossus fighting Juggernaut is great. It's a really, really cool scene, and I mean, I still like the fight between him and Angel Dust, and Negasonic and Angel Dust, but yeah, it's the kind of, that was the first time we saw, so we didn't know exactly what to expect. In this one, we knew to expect some, but it surpassed expectations. It wasn't just the same thing. When I watched The Wolverine, I requested that the studio gives a trilogy of Wolverine and Yukio going around the world having adventures. Obviously, that didn't happen, and now, it can't, because Wolverine is not, yeah, they're going to have to recast Wolverine. So now I really hope we get more movies with Yukio. Either actress, either characterization, I like them both a lot. I mean, I will say they should definitely give her more to do. If it's this one, and it probably will be, they should give her more to do than just High Wade, again. But this movie uses fire manipulation, the fire manipulation power, so much better than the X-Men main continuity films. And I really don't think that The Last Stand had to use it so boringly, and it's also fairly meh in Days of Future Past. Let's see, what else we got? NDP sacrifices himself, and FF then refuses to kill anyone. That I quite like. I thought that he was gonna get in front of FF and be like, if you're gonna kill anybody else, you have to kill me first. But it was also a good, it's one of those, live by the sword, die by the sword kind of things. Where, like, if you're going to go out and try to kill people, you might get people killed who you care about. So it's a great little, yeah. So now DP can dive and take a bullet for a loved one. Maybe he just didn't care that much about Vanessa. There, I said it. And the death scene, very Oscar baity, and the movie plays that up as well, but also dramatic. And this is, Film Brain points out that the scene feels really indulgent and just keeps going. That's true. I'm sorry. It did not need to be that long, and it really shouldn't have been. I felt the feels. I laughed at the jokes, but it definitely went on for too long. And again with the spirit vision, this time Vanessa and DP get together and his skin gets fixed, which is, I mean, that is what they say about heaven, right? That, any deformity and such is removed. So. But she says, it's not their time because family. The pen is grosser than the sword. A family. And I wrote belong songline. I don't know. I forget what that is supposed to mean. Sometimes it's not enough to write in, what's it called? I forget. I have to admit, I did not expect that Cable would work with DP in this movie. I figured that at the end of the movie he would realize that he should be working with him. And Cable travels back in time to save DP's life instead of rejoining his family. And the mid-credits scene has DP time traveling a number of times to save Peter, kill Barakapool, kill Ryan Reynolds as he's about to do Green Lantern. It also undid Vanessa dying. I don't know if that's cheap meta-commentary on how Infinity War will also have to bring back the people who died in it. some of both or something completely different. I don't know. Which brings us to notes taken before watching. The trailer bit of Deadpool sitting up in a casket he was hiding in and shooting people is like the 2004 Punisher game, and I forget, I think that might be, is that in Welcome Back, Frank? I forget, but it might be in at least some Punisher. Yeah. Now, I don't think I've said this anywhere else, so here we go. The X-Men 1.5 DVD takes 2 hours and 35 minutes to watch if you watch it with extended scenes and behind-the-scenes footage, not counting the end credits. Considering the movie itself is an hour and 30 minutes, that's more than an hour of extra footage. Now, if only you could watch those and not have to watch the movie in between them. If you do watch the end credits, it's about 2 hours and 43 minutes, but once the end credits start rolling, there is no extra footage. And yes, I rewatched all of the X-Men franchise films, including the solo ones, and their DVD special features, including obviously Deadpool 1 in the months leading up to watching this, and a bunch of notes that I'm not going to use because I changed my mind about them. A few notes from rewatching. You know, Days of Future Past, Logan wakes up in the past and it's like, I'm from the future, and the boss's daughter is like, wow, I literally screwed his brain out. In Days of Future Past, you sure there's not a little beast in there? What does his penis have to do with anything? I need brain tissue, bone marrow. Who is marrow? And Xavier tries to use Cerebro and groans more and more. Yeah, I don't like merry-go-rounds either. Wash the plane. We're going to Reddington. To have a few of them back, and he reaches out for Charles. If they had fist bumped, that would have been amazing. Recently rewatched 12 Angry Men. You know, at the very start of that dozen are just 2 minutes away from retirement. Deadpool 1 was one of the few movies in the X-Men movie franchise continuity that doesn't have too many mutants, much less has them just stand around and do nothing for large chunks of film. Now this one has X-Force, even though they already do have a movie coming up. It wasn't clear if he saved all the X-Force members or only Peter, but I can imagine that he saved all of them. Yeah, and I really hope that, really hope that this doesn't have too many mutants, and that it doesn't have the team for only 10 minutes or something. I like the way they did it, that just you meet all these team members, you expect there to be all of them to do stuff, and then basically all of them die immediately after. Yeah. Now, in the comics, Cable tends to always be drawn with one of his eyes flashing and glowing, I guess showing that he's using his psychic powers. How much will his eye flash or glow in this? I honestly don't think I noticed it much, but I guess maybe it did when the gun, like, jumped to his back. I guess that's telekinesis, but is it just, like, magnetism, or is it something specific to, excuse me, that gun? I don't know. But he was really badass. Absolutely loved him. And, with this kind of the threat, does it try too hard? And some of the time, yes. I think I've said enough. And someone pointed out, pretends to still be an underdog despite the success of the first movie. And that is really, yeah, that's awkward. And I was wondering if Vanessa was going to get to use her powers that she has in the comics in this movie, which, one of the trailers for the first one, at least one of the trailers, suggests that she would in that movie, but yeah. Or at least that she would acknowledge she has them, which these movies haven't yet. The first one managed a good amount and scope of action for a very small budget, and I was wondering if this one would go too big in an effort to wow us. I don't think it went too big, but it did wow. And the first one genuinely managed to get you right in the feels. The tragedy in it really works. And I was wondering if it would in this as well. It does, but again, then you have the ending, which undoes the, the first one ended without him getting his looks back. And then this, he does get her back, so yeah. Anyway, loved the movie, loved recording this. Hope you enjoyed watching.